Hey, what's up? What's up, Patrick?
Hey Felix, hey Patrick.
Hello, guys.
So we're gonna wait about 5 minutes, see who all wants to kind of tune in, and then we're gonna kick off the show. So, um, yep, just feel free to chill for the next 5 minutes. I'm gonna play some
Cool.
music. We'll work on getting like some uh, other music, like I guess to go in the background. But I got some. I guess I'll just come up with on the fly. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. I hope it's like public domain or something. I won't get like banned by YouTube if
Oh,
it gets uploaded there at some point.
yeah. I mean, I have the yeah. Yeah, those are things too we'll have to figure out in the future. See how that goes.
Okay, cool. I was
Because
also
I do.
wondering what uh, um what were you gonna say, Felix?
Oh no, go ahead.
I was also wondering, well, it's just me, you, and Patrick on the line too. And I asked Patrick, I'm not sure, but I was thinking maybe we could meet at 19 UTC instead of 18:30 if that's cool with you guys.
For me, yes.
Yeah, that'll work for me too.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. That helps a lot. Just gives a bit more time in the schedule because it's been a crazy busy day. And I think we have, is this Perry? Yes, Grappa. Grappa, we're talking about. Welcome, Perry. It's good to see you. We were just talking about how we'll probably just chill out for the next few minutes and then we'll start talking. We have some exciting topics to discuss, but for now, we'll just give some time for people to join the call.
Yeah, we'll start off here at 5 minutes into the hour. Trying to load up some background music so it's not so quiet.
Well, Patrick could sing for us. Patrick could sing some Eden songs. I know that Patrick is quite apt to do that and has a beautiful voice.
Yeah, but today I am without voice.
Oh, okay. The settlement layer of Eos. Something like that.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
I'm inspired by the best.
Yeah,
Inspired by the best, Patrick. Yeah, and then maybe at some point we can get I remember Doug was doing the raps and stuff like that, and we were talking with Andrew about drumming. That's something that Felix and I were talking about because we have some exciting plans for the show in the future with like cool musical segments and stuff like that. So it would be cool to imbue this town hall in the future, make it like kind of a musical town hall. Of course, talking about the um, the progress and developments and all the important stuff, but have it around in the beginning and stuff like that. Have different kinds of music and fun stuff like that would be really cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, once we play with like OBS too, I think that will be cool. Yeah, because we can kind of have a playlist. We can pick out a playlist every week, and then yeah, that just adds to like making this a little bit more immersive and entertaining show. Um,
Yeah. Have you had the chance, Felix, to check out the EOS support live stream that Charles Bishop did? I know that Patrick and Perry were both there, and the Charles and EOS support did quite an interesting format with like combining the live stream of the Twitter Spaces, which is kind of like what we're doing here in Discord, but also with the video at the same time. I think there's a lot we can learn from what they're doing.
I checked it out briefly, but yeah, I'd have to. It was like a 2 hour stream, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite long. It was
Yes,
over 2 hours.
yes. That was long, yeah. That was long.
Yes,
I
it
got.
But
was.
but it was great. It was very great. Live stream at the same time on Twitter Space, on YouTube. Yeah, was well made.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, we hit 5 minutes, and if people pop in the way, that's great. But I think, if we're recording, Dan, we can go ahead and then I guess for the two of you guys that are here right now, you guys can kind of hear kind of what our plans are of what we're planning on doing weekly with this event. So, yeah, if you're good to go, Dan, I guess you can hit it off with our intro.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. And I'll say, like Felix mentioned, we are recording too. So at some point in the future, we'll share this with people to help spread the word about Eden and so forth. And it's also partially just for purposes of learning because we're starting the show and we're figuring out the best way to do it. We have plans to do like a video show and all sorts of exciting stuff, but we're just starting with what we have and playing by ear and doing as we go. And then, yeah, also, I think that Patrick is quite familiar with a lot of things that we've been discussing or that we will be discussing because we're going to be discussing the Eden Fractal a lot probably today. But there's also a bunch of other topics too. So feel free to jump in, Perry or Patrick or anybody, when there's different things that you find interesting. And also, hey, Doug, good to see you here. Hope you're doing well.
Just got my microphone, so thank you for welcoming me, and good morning.
Sounds great, Perry. Thank you for sharing your voice, and good morning to you too, and thanks for being here. Okay, cool. So, without further ado, I'll kick it off with a little welcome. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the first Eden Town Hall on Discord. I hope that you're all having a wonderful day and are ready for some super exciting conversations about Eden. The third official Eden election is coming up in just about 5 weeks, and there's so much exciting news to discuss, more than ever. In today's town hall, we'll share a brief overview of where Eden is now and how Eden is moving forward, and we'll discuss plans to empower Eden contributors with an Eden Fractal, which is super exciting. There's quite a few people who are working together to make this really happen in like a really awesome and helpful way. Several people on this call, so I'm excited to talk about that. We're also planning to discuss Eden member services with Chief Delegate and Bywire CEO Michael Sullivan, but unfortunately he can't make it due to some unforeseen circumstances right now. So we'll discuss this on another topic, or we'll discuss this topic on another time. And along the way, there's also a bunch of other exciting developments in Eden that we might explore and things that we can discuss, and we can play it by ear and see what everybody's interested in discussing. I'm Dan Singjoy, aka Dogman, and I'm co-hosting with Felix Reese, aka Lionflesh. So how's it going, Felix?
Hey, Dan, thank you. So, yeah, hey, everyone. So, thank you all for taking your time today to tune into our show. So, our hopes and goal of this reoccurring event is to provide a 30 to 60-minute show that you can tune in every week and hear about updates and highlights of activities going on within the Eden community. So, we also hope to have segments in this show for live participation and are working on getting guest speakers booked as we start to build out the structure of this show. So as Dan mentioned, we have several exciting topics to discuss this week, so I hope everyone is ready to jump right in. For our first topic, Dan and I would like to share our brief overview of where Eden is now and how the theme of this second official Eden cycle seems to be centered around the notion of moving Eden forward. So with the second term of the halfway point, the current chief delegates have led the way with setting initiatives to push Eden forward while also setting the tone for other Eden members to follow suit. I like the idea of making moving Eden forward a movement for the rest of the second half of this term and going into the third election, as we now have the Eden Fractal launching this Wednesday, June 8th, to further empower Eden contributors. But before going into more details about the Eden Fractal, Dan, what are your thoughts on where we are with Eden?
So, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. Thanks for sharing that, Felix. Where to start? So, I agree that the idea of moving Eden forward, that's something that I believe Joshua Seymour came up with and was the name of some of the meetings he's been hosting. And I think that's a really apt name, and it's really descriptive for what we're doing here. Like, there's been so much action. So we're in the second term of Eden right now. In the first term, people were figuring a lot of things out and exploring like the design space, what should we be doing with Eden and so forth. And now in the second term, like you're saying, the chief delegates made some really big propositions and really big proposals and are taking big steps. I know that during the Eden election, people like Eva Rose and Brendan Lovejoy were saying it's a great time to take bold steps, and I agree. And I'm very interested to see what comes out of the chief delegate proposals that they made during, I think, chief delegate meeting number 5, with like doubling the amount of funding and tripling the amount of fund disbursement. And there's proposals for having different circles for funding, like technical teams and marketing teams and all sorts of different teams to help grow Eden and move Eden forward. It's really exciting, and there's so much to explore. In addition, there's also been lots of new ideas and interesting ideas throughout the Eden chats lately over the past couple of weeks. People have been talking about Eden DeFi applications, which could be very helpful. We've also been talking about Discord and Telegram governance, how to govern our community in the most democratic way and the most credibly neutral and fair way possible. There's also some chief delegate calls where they haven't recorded for the past like week or so, because I think that they had a missed meeting. So I'm interested to see what the chief delegates are up to. And then, Felix and I have been discussing a lot of really exciting things with these town halls and future plans for what we can do with these shows and bring together the Eden community, and just generally being halfway through the second term of Eden and the third term coming up next month. And then with Eden Fractal coming up, Felix and I and Patrick and Jay and a bunch of other people have been working to make this event really successful, and I think could be super helpful for Eden as a whole, and then the whole world as a whole, because Eden is so helpful to enable true democracy and practical cooperation, make the best experience possible for everybody. So I'm super excited. It's like it's a profoundly exciting time, and I'm very proud and honored and stoked to be doing this work, this important work with y'all. And yeah, I'm excited to discuss it. And I suppose now I'll pass it back to Felix. If you'd like to share more thoughts, or also if anybody else would like to share some thoughts about how you feel about Eden in general, or where we're at, or any of these particular topics. I know we have a bunch of great Eden contributors in the room here, so feel free if anyone would like to jump in, or if Felix, you'd like to take it from here a bit. I'd love to hear whoever's thoughts.
Yeah. So I'd like to encourage, we got Perry, Jay, Patrick, and Doug all here in attendance, and you guys are all part of the Eden community, and we're working on getting Doug in, but I'm just curious to hear you guys' feedbacks of like what do you guys think where Eden is right now, and if you kind of feel that the sentiment around this second term has really been about pushing and moving Eden forward. And so yeah, if any of you guys would like to talk, feel free to unmute and hop in, and then if not, we will transition into our next topic.
Well, the topic of updating us as to where the Eden delegates are, I think you mentioned or somebody mentioned that they haven't had a recorded meeting recently. And that's kind of curious. I've been kind of waiting for their next meeting. Last we saw number 6. I'm waiting for number 7. Curious to know what they do next. I'm very curious about that. So that's interesting. Whenever that's on schedule, I don't want to disrupt your schedule, but that's kind of top of mind for me this morning. Drinking my coffee, trying to wake up, not be sick anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, first up, yeah, thanks for sharing those thoughts, Perry. And I hope that you're enjoying the coffee, and I hope that you'll feel well too. To provide my my perspective on that. So, one, first you mentioned delegates, and I'm pretty sure you meant chief delegates, but just to make it clear, we do have, I think, 3 delegates on the call, because Patrick and Jay and me are all delegates, and then there's also, I think, like 13 other delegates too. So there are quite a few delegates doing different things around the community, and I've been speaking with a lot of them. And there's quite a few recordings of quite a few meetings, I should say, of meeting for the Empowering Eden Contributors meetings on Wednesday morning, where there's several Eden delegates speaking, and then speaking in chats and so forth. But specifically the chief delegates. So I spoke with Chuck McDonald on this Wednesday. He was at the Empowering Eden Contributors meeting that Joshua's been hosting, and he said that they needed to cancel the Eden the Eden chief delegates number 7. I think he said that they pushed it back a few times. I know that both Brock and Michael O'Sullivan were in Davos, and they're planning on doing a live show there that I was looking forward to, but I'm not sure what happened. I guess that there was lots of scheduling conflicts, and I know at least some of the delegates had some personal matters that popped up too. But Chuck said that they were planning on doing the meeting on Thursday, which was now 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from that. But other than that, I'm not exactly sure. And yeah, I'm also very excited to see what comes from the next meetings, because it's been like a bit of a cliffhanger. Like, there is all these like huge propositions and huge proposals back in meeting 5, and lots of interesting discussions during number 6. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting point to bring up, though, Perry, because, yeah, I was also curious about that, and I had looked into the Eden Telegram, and I had seen that Chuck had mentioned as well that I guess it basically got postponed, but then canceled, and then they went ahead and did this last Thursday, so we should expect to see that coming out here in the next little bit. I know Michael, I think, has been the one that's been posting them, and he's had several things kind of come up that has kept him more occupied. So I'm not sure if that has led to any of the, I guess, kind of delay. But no, it'll be interesting. What we're hoping to do with this show too is to be able to bring on hopefully a rotating chief delegate to come speak weekly, so that any questions that the members of the Eden community have can be brought up to the chief delegates directly. I think it is a responsibility for chief delegates to be able to be accessible to the Eden community, and so I think proposing this of having a weekly rotating chief delegate come in and stand in as a guest speaker and be able to answer questions from the community is a potential of what we could do with this show. And we had planned on having Michael on for this show to talk about the Eden member services, but we're also, Dan and I, we're still trying to build the structure of this show out. So we just figured let's go ahead and get started. And we're a work in progress, but we're hoping that Michael should be good to go, and he'll probably be our first guest speaker next week. And so these are questions that we can directly ask them. And I know Chuck has been pretty open and accessible to the Eden community, so we'll have to reach out to him. But he did attend this last preparation meeting that we had for this Eden Fractal, and he has been attending those meetings as well. So he may be there on Wednesday, and so having these interactions with the chief delegates too is going to help. I think what we're doing here with this initiative of the Eden Fractal is going to really help kind of bring our community together and really start to get a measurement of like who's willing to actually start to contribute and take time to spend in this community to push Eden forward. And that's going to be important, because having these basically these metrics to look at going into the Eden election is what I want to start to build out, so that we can start to have more informed decisions when we go into these elections and vote for who our delegates are going to be, and start to hold delegates and chief delegates accountable for showing up and having accountability for their responsibility of those positions to help be there for the community, and work together as a community, because we're all wanting to grow. And like I said, I really like the theme of moving Eden forward. So yeah, unless anybody else has any other takes or input that they'd like to add to that, I'd like to hear more. If not, I think this would be a good transition into that Eden Fractal, which is basically the main topic for today, which is very exciting, what we have going on Wednesday. So yeah, I'll leave it open real quick, and if anyone wants to hop in, and then if not, we will move into the main topic.
Okay, cool. Well, so first I'd like to just say a quick welcome and shout out to Veronica. Veronica is all over the place in the ES community and she's doing really amazing work. So thank you so much for all that. And then also thanks for joining us. And then also I saw Doug was unmuting and then muting himself a couple times. So it seemed like maybe Doug had something that he'd like to say. Would Doug or Veronica or anybody like to share anything? It looks like Doug's just looking at us holding that rooster, and he's not saying anything. Okay. And I heard a weird sound there. It seems like maybe Doug has like some connection issues because he left, or maybe he didn't like the rooster joke. Okay, cool. So I suppose we'll keep going then, unless Doug is still trying to fix his issues and got it to work.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you
Oh
now.
gosh. It's so frustrating. I kept trying to talk and I thought people were talking over me and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm having my again. Yeah, definitely wanted to say a lot. I mean, first off, my head has been so buried deep in the work I'm doing that I had no idea what was even going on over with the chief delegate meetings. I pretty much had followed them through I would say like the third or fourth, and then recently I sort of fell out of it, and so that's sort of like all new news to me. Part of the reason I was really interested in coming was I never signed up for Eden, and tried to join, or never really attempted to try to, because my very first thing when I came into the community, I said to myself, I'm really interested about this Eden stuff, but first things first, I just want to buy some EOS. I want to be able to buy some EOS. I want to know how to transact with it. And I want to be able to feel comfortable that I want to support participating in this, because I think it's a good use of my time and a good use of other people's time. And I, from the early on, was very excited about it, but I was also very hesitant and fearful because having participated on boards and on charitable endeavors and volunteered positions in the past, I'm not at all afraid of giving away my time or donating it or doing sweat equity towards capitalizing a business or whatever. But I'm really not into spending my time where it doesn't serve me, it doesn't suit what I want to be doing, it limits me, and it's very resource intensive. And it's very, the kind of thing to where a lot of people are maybe not so fighting tooth and nail over the position, but there's a lot of people looking at who's doing what and how this is going. And when I look at it, I'm just like, man, it's so much stuff I don't understand. And this whole thing with the block production, I don't understand the voting and staking. And I just want to buy some EOS, and I can't get through till this day because of the stupid fact that I can't get a legal ID because I'm required to do an amendment to my birth certificate, because my mom, like when I was 8 years old in 1983, filed for a social security card that had a middle name that wasn't on my birth certificate, and pretty much carried that through most of my life. And now recently, with the tightening of laws regarding identity and with what's going on with crypto, it's like uh I'm in a situation where I went through my waiting period for my amended birth certificate, and the Department of Vital Statistics sent me back the same exact birth certificate. They didn't amend it. I'm just like, what the hell does this mean? Like, is this like a joke? Are they like over there laughing? And so for me, um, I missed the last weekend. Yesterday, I missed the practically meeting. I was so mad at myself because I had done so much stuff for the community. I was so excited. I've been having so much fun being part of the Fractally team. I really found a home there, and I really just been making some good quality friendships and relationships with trust, and just getting an idea of, like who's valued at doing what, and what's acceptable or not, or just having support and direction. And I've been so immersed in sort of all these doors it's open for me that when I missed the meeting, okay, get this, I missed the meeting and I'm sort of pissed at myself because I was like, dude, I've never gotten 6. I've always wanted to rank 6. but I've never really had a reason to. And I was like, I just ran a 24-hour live stream. Like in two days, someone suggested the idea. I'm like, I've been doing all this stuff. I'm like, I gotta itemize it all. And so that morning, I'm talking to Mark Shear, like my teammate, like hours before the meeting, and we've talked for a while. And I'm sitting there like furiously, like, I'm going to itemize everything. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to put it all together. And I'm sitting there doing that, expecting some sort of like notification to go off or something. Cause I normally see it in Telegram or so Telegram open and, Mighty Networks, the Zoom call, the Google Calendar, somewhere it's usually I get hit by usually things more than one way. And then for some reason I don't have any notification and I missed the point where the group meeting or the breakout room's already starting. And so I was just like, oh man. And I was like, I felt so stupid. I felt so just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was that like airheaded because I mean, Mark was even telling me, yeah, we got it. And I just totally lost track of time. So because of that, I'm all like, I'm frustrated and I'm all like, I'm just like, man, I was like, now I don't know. What did they say about, was it just the last week's participation or does that happened after a week ago? Now it doesn't count anymore. And so what ended up happening is I found myself over in the Eden. I'm like, what's going on in Eden? Like I haven't been focusing on Eden much lately because I've been so busy with all this, just different stuff. And so I was all just on one of the groups on Telegram, and there was some guy that I met because me, it's like if I see someone ask a question, I just like to answer right away because it's live and you can interact with them while they're there. It's better than like having these delayed responses. And so I ended up helping this guy out, and he tips me 50 EOS. He tipped me 50 EOS. And I was like, wow, that was cool. Like, I didn't see that coming. And even though, like, I can't bend it really on anything, I don't want to. I want to be a hodler. And I'm like, I wasn't happy with my 8. So I don't know even who this guy really was. I guess he's a Genesis account holder, but I just got into talking to him, and he was like telling me how he was excited about all the stuff that's going on, wanted to find out more about it, he wanted to get involved, he wants to get involved Fractally, he wants to get involved with Eden. And so it's sort of funny to me because I have my own perspective, and it's like I wouldn't have run a 24-hour live stream or be sitting here talking to you right now on a Sunday if I didn't really believe in what I'm doing after 5 months at going at this for like nonstop, like having so much of my time consumed. So it's sort of interesting to me because this whole thing with the FUD and with, people arguing about the past and, block production voting and all these different kinds of topics. It's sort of it's not funny. It's not something to be laughed at because there's something really involved, but it's sort of like, hey, I'm really interested in getting to the questions that provide the best value, that give you the best answers. But sometimes you ask the wrong question, you're only going to get a certain amount of value. Sometimes the problem is how you ask the question or what the question is. And so I really feel is what this community has been lacking or having a struggle with is having a way to allow people to do that, without like, because if you try to fit everything into a Telegram chat stream topically, it just doesn't work, and just the nature of it creates a lot of opportunities for a lot of noise and you have to be of a very refined and cultivated mindset to see through all the noise and get to the real issues because there's so many different things going on. And so I'm so glad this is all happening. I'm so glad my mic is working again because I've been like, I don't know. I have a lot of opinionated perspectives, but I think they're very unique and they deserve, further evaluation and not all of them do necessarily, but I just really feel as though there's huge potential in what's going on in EOS and Fractally for that matter. But really what the net result is what you make out of it. It's sort of like participatory democracy. It's sort of like if everyone just sits at home and eats potato chips and watches TV, it's not really helpful.
Right.
And that's what we're excited about with this Eden Fractal, which I think would be a great time to transition into that topic. Is Eden this Eden Fractal is bridging the gap with EOS and Fractally, and basically the way I see Fractally, it's just the next iteration of Eden that Dan has continue to pursue. And so now where our hopes is to really use this Eden Fractal as a way to really start to treat EOS as a currency. So you say you can't go and actually buy it because of basically KYC limitations on an exchange, but a true currency you should be able to earn. And what's cool about this with this Eden Fractal is now your contributions towards the community cause of Eden, which is any contributions that's valued within the communities, will be paid out essentially in EOS. Like we are starting. That's the idea and the plans. I know that Dan has talked about throwing in 100 EOS into like the weekly Eden Fractal delegate or distribution. I know we're still kind of working out the kinks on that. And then we've also talked with Chuck McDonald. He's been cool with also considering using some of his delegate funding to put into this Eden Fractal. And it's going to be interesting because if this Eden Fractal really does start to drive participation within the community, and contributions are coming in, and people are now starting to get engaged because now they're incentivized to do so. Your contributions are not going to be just sweat equity. Like you have a way to be able to get compensated for your work, as long as it's the community feels like it's valuable. And if this really kicks off, I see this as a great way of starting to get delegates to get a little bit more involved with funding these Eden Fractals, because I do see where we could have multiple fractals within Eden, where it's dependent on the mission behind, I guess, those fractals or the teams. Like in Fractally, basically we have teams, and so maybe something like that happens here. But ideally, like if you have a group of people that are bringing value through content contributions, then that would be a delegate could be like, okay, I'm going to fund this fractal. So then this fractal that's building content contributions are measuring everyone's contributions based off the purpose of who's providing the best content for Eden. And then that's how that gets allocated to the essentially the Eden content contributions. So right now we're starting with just regular Eden Fractal, and I think it's just going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. It's because the thing is, you can set up initiatives saying like, we need this, we need that, and then hope that people come and do those contributions. But at the same time, we got to see what people are willing to offer and what's available. And so it's going to be interesting to see this first Eden Fractal, what the main objective is, and what's going to be really honored as far as like every weekly contribution. And so I guess this transition wasn't as clean as we would like it, but basically I getting a little getting ahead of myself with the Eden Fractal. But basically this Eden Fractal is going to be utilizing the Fractally process, like I mentioned, and we're going to use this to build a metric for measuring respect within the community that's participating in Eden, for those who are providing value and contributing towards pushing Eden forward. So yeah, this initiative is being led by several passionate Eden members who see the value in the Fractally process to empower contributions through towards the community's goals. And so I see a lot of basically everyone here in this event right now, it has participated in Fractally. And so I think we all see how it is a great way to basically, at the very remove all tokens aside, we're basically saying, hey, I respect you for doing this, and we're coming up with a system to now use as a metric moving forward into elections, to be like, okay, well, looking at the respect, you don't have much respect, but you're wanting to be a delegate. Why should we vote for you? Like, if you're not participating in events that the Eden community is now starting to set up to measure contributions and to start to hold people accountable and build a reputation. And so that's kind of my take on the Eden Fractal. I know there's a lot more, and so I'm going to pass it back over to Dan, and see what his thoughts are and what he wants to share on the Eden Fractal.
Cool. Sounds great. Thanks, Felix, and thanks, Doug, for all those really exciting thoughts. Yeah, so there's a lot to share. I see Jay just unmuted himself too. Is there anything you'd like to share first, Jay, or should I continue?
Yeah. Thanks, Dan, for letting me jump in with the question.
Yeah, sure thing.
I'm in a church parking lot, and I have to. I'm part of the prayer team, so I just have a few more minutes. But right at this point, to follow up on what Felix was saying about this new Eden Fractal, are we going to make a good faith attempt? I realize it's still at the experimental phase, but this will be a good test of actually implementing the white paper, the Fractally white paper's guidelines on how to spin up and initiate a new fractal group. And so is there, I know Gregory Wexler is a great resource on the Fractally team to help us try and cross-check to make sure we're following the guidelines. I don't know if it's more of a rule than a guideline or a guideline than a rule, because we're still at the experimental phase. But, even, for example, the number of members of a startup fractal, do we have enough members? And I know that Joshua, for example, is a great record keeper too, together with Gregory. So I'm assuming we're kind of going to follow the procedures that are outlined in the white paper. Have you and Felix given some thought to that?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Dan. You can take that one.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. And thanks, Jay, for sharing your thoughts and asking the question. So yeah, we've thought quite a bit, and we're working closely with Joshua to basically do the same process with a couple modifications. Basically, do the same process as is being done in Fractally right now. And so far, for people who aren't familiar, Jay's been there, but we've had about a dozen people for the past couple Empowering Eden Contributors meetings on Wednesday mornings that we're planning to basically transform into the Eden Fractal. So there's already over a dozen people who are participating, and so that alone is enough to start the fractal process and actually start the fractal community. When we first started the Fractally Genesis community, we had like 9 people or so forth, or something like that, for the first meeting, and since then it's been 3 months now, and now we have a solid group of just amazing contributors coming, probably about 35 people coming every week, and there's so much exciting developments happening, and I'm like always amazed by how much people are doing, and it's incredibly exciting. So yeah, we're working closely with Joshua and about a dozen other Eden members right now, and looking forward to working with many more Eden members. It'd be great to get dozens more, or however many, of like really talented and passionate and passionate Eden members to start showing up to the Eden Fractal meetings and contributing. And yeah, basically we'll be doing the Fractally process as is defined in the white paper, and as we do on Saturdays for the Fractally Genesis group. But in our case, we'll be doing it specifically to help Eden and specifically to help EOS, whereas the Fractally process on Saturdays is specifically to help Fractally. So there's a bit of a difference there. This will be specifically empowering Eden contributors, people who contribute to Eden. And in addition to the processes that we do in the Saturday meetings, we'll also have a couple modifications to take advantage of the power of EOS and empower people with EOS more with Eden. So for one thing, I've been working with Joshua as well as James Mart and Vlad from Consortium and some other developers and builders in the community to basically figure out like a really good way to be able to distribute EOS in addition to Respect. So people who participate in these Fractal meetings every week will earn Eden Respect, just like how people earn Fractally Respect on Saturdays, but this will be Eden Respect. And then in addition, there's also EOS rewards. So I raised something like 500 EOS with Eden Creators from Pomelo and Eden Election. And so I'm going to be giving away 500 EOS, or rather, I'm going to be giving away 100 EOS per week for the first several weeks, and that will be distributed according to the same Fibonacci ratio. So everybody who attends will earn EOS, and you earn more EOS if you get ranked, 4 or 5 or 6 or 3 or 2 or whatever. The more helpful work you do for Eden, the more respect you earn, and the more EOS you earn. And then also, Chuck McDonald has been working on some really exciting plans for NFTs too. So I believe that everybody who attends these events will get NFTs. He's also talking about, like, he makes beautiful art from the NFTs. He's also talking about making NTTs, non-transferable tokens, and having it backed with EOS. And we also have a proposal in the works to raise a lot more funding. So potentially, if/when we have bigger rewards of 1,000 EOS per week or more, then people can really earn a substantial amount from helping Eden. So I hope that answers your question, Chad. I don't know if that was kind of a long answer, but basically it's a similar process, but we have some additions to, I think, make it even better in many ways that I think will really work together with helping Eden and helping EOS with the Fractally process. And feel free to let me know if anything wasn't clear there, or if there's any question that I didn't quite answer or that you're still curious about.
Yeah, no, I think that was fantastic, a fantastic answer, and I need to keep reading. There's so much in the white paper that I haven't yet digested fully, but I'm excited about the experimentation with it, and we're also, we're the test case for issuing the respect tokens through the stand-up meeting process and introducing that to Eden. I think that's great. I love the idea. I'm envious of Chuck because he's skilled at making NFTs, and now that we're in the process of the actual new chain that's going to be the support chain, the mainnet for fractals and Fractally is very exciting to me. And this is going to be a technical question. I don't think we have too many techies on here, but I'm interested in learning how to mint an NFT and to put that transaction onto the Fractally chain. And I realize that's it's in development, it's down the road, but James Smart likes to say you can do anything with a smart contract. And so to the extent I've seen some software programming, it happened to be on Ethereum with Solidity, but nevertheless, you put together your NFT token, and then you just transact it, you put it on the blockchain, and it's a token, and it's an issuance. But obviously, Ethereum, for example, has their token, their NFT standard for minting tokens, and it's a templating system, so it's not reinventing the wheel so much as it is putting making a smart contract of it accessible to this NFT token standard. But that's my question in itself. I'd like to be able to put together some artwork and create an NFT, and I'd love to be able to do it on the Fractally chain, which I realize is in development, but I'm throwing it out now because we're just at the genesis of the Eden Fractal. I'd love to help us kind of light the fire and say, just my personal preference, I don't want to learn how to, for example, to mint an NFT on the Wax chain, for example. I'd rather learn how to do it as soon as it's accessible to us, to be also the test net for, hey, can we begin tooling up to try and put an NFT transaction onto the Fractally mainnet or testnet chain, and that sounds like it might be a good question for James Smart. And so on when we're together on Wednesday, I'll remind me to ask him then. But I'm excited about, because I love what Chuck's doing with NFTs, and he's passionate about it. He sees the value in it, and so do I. I think there was such a buzz around NFTs, and for I think my perception is for many of the wrong reasons, just as another investment vehicle. But I see practical value in being able to share non-fungible tokens and non-transferable tokens. You could think of something like brownie points or merit badges or just rewards or certificates of appreciation. And depending upon who's, giving somebody a thank you note, or, those type of things, especially when artwork and creativity and voice and text and messaging can all be wrapped into those NFT tokens. I think there's a lot of excitement for us to show that there are some real world applications on us building these communities that have the ability to interact with this the blockchain system. So I'm very excited about it. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna have to split for now, but thanks for doing this call. It's been great, and I look forward to seeing you guys Wednesday or sooner. Thanks. Bye, you guys.
All right, thank you, Jay.
Jay, also before you go too, there is an Eden NFTs working group that Chuck McDonald and Lovejoy and Sachit and Rob Regro and a few other people have been working with to build a lot of what you're talking about directly into Eden. And I think Practically Chain eventually might make sense for NFTs, but for now we have it with EOS, with Atomic Hub and so forth. And so if you'd like, I can send you the link to this group. There's only 6 people in the group right now, and we met last week for a meeting. But Chuck McDonald is thinking very similarly along the same kind of lines about how to empower Eden community members with lots of NFTs for all sorts of purposes of like reputation building and then cool art and stuff like that. And so it seems like you'd be very interested in speaking with Chuck and Sachit and so forth in this group.
Yes, thanks,
Eden
Dan.
NFTs working group.
It may be one of those I can just if anyone knows how to send me an invite or even the link to that group, I can also DM Chuck too. But yeah, if someone sends me something to my Telegram, that would be fantastic. I'll just click on it, and yeah, I'd love to do that. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
It sounds great. This sounds great, Jay. I'll send that to you, and you're welcome. And thanks for joining us. And looking forward to speaking with you in the upcoming days.
Sounds great. See you guys.
Which group was he talking about?
Okay. In the Eden NFTs working group.
Ooh,
So
Eden
that's
NFTs working group. Cool.
Yeah. So that's a working group that it's all Eden members, and I believe that Sachit started up, who I met for the first time. We met on about a week and a half ago, and then that's kind of being integrated with the Eden Fractal in some sense, because Chuck is helping to lead this Eden NFTs working group with Sachit, and then Chuck has, as we know, like very exciting visions for making an Eden NFT studio, basically. And so during this meeting and in this Telegram group, it's still kind of getting started up. So it's not super active. We've been just messaging here and there for the past few weeks, but we're basically working on just exploring all the possibilities for Eden NFTs. And then, as we were saying before, Chuck is planning to have the NFTs ready for the Eden Fractal, so that every time that somebody participates in the Eden Fractal, then they can also get NFTs as well. And of course, Chuck makes amazing art too, so that works well.
Well, I've been hearing about Chuck and the NFT thing, so I'm interested in that. Hey, I wanted to clarify something, because my main reason of coming today was trying to figure out how you have an Eden Fractal, what that exactly means. Because of course, I participated in the brainstorming sessions with Jesse of EOSBs and Patrick of MindWeb, and a number of other community members, many of which are here with us or listening or whatever. And I was always perplexed exactly how this whole thing about Fractally on EOS, or like this merger hybridization of fractal governance and Eden. And so I've got a lot more clarity now because listening to the dialogue, but there's still some questions that I want resolved. And let me just restate what my understanding is that, and all intents and purposes, Eden is the result of what I call fractal governance version 1, and Fractally is like fractal governance version 2. Eden, what Eden results in is people that are elected to positions of leadership, or whatever, chief delegates to represent, for a term, where you have the lower level delegates that don't necessarily play a functional or valuable role at the moment so much. So you're having this thing going on, this dialogue here now, and whereas this whole notion with Fractally on Eden, I was thinking it from the standpoint is like, how can the chains work or be compatible, or like
Hello.
be some design thing. And now when I'm
Hey,
realizing
Patrick.
it's almost like a dual layer thing where you're applying the
So no one is
principle.
speaking now. It's very silent.
So hold on one second, Doug. So I guess Patrick can't hear us, but we are speaking right now. Doug is speaking. Patrick, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Doug is speaking. Are you not able to hear Doug?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Doug has already spoke. I will just add something to all what we have discussed until now. So, do you hear me?
Yeah, but maybe Patrick, it's best to let Doug continue speaking first. I think that Doug was in the middle of what he was saying, and then maybe you can share your thoughts after Doug.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just
Okay,
I
finish.
cool.
don't
Thanks.
hear him. I don't hear
So,
him.
so what I
Yeah,
see now
that's
is
strange.
that the chains don't have to, it's nothing to do about the chains. It's like two different products
Oh,
being
very
applied to
silent.
the same user or person. Whereas what you're trying to do is incentivize and reward contributions with Fractally. And so you can actually, you have to be a member of Eden in this concept, as well as a member or a Fractally, I'm assuming. Does someone have to go for example to the weekly stand-up meeting there, or that's not even part of it because you're starting your own fractal, so your weekly meeting is your Eden fractal meeting, I guess. But that
So,
technology will run on the Fractally chain that's yet to be built that Jay wants NFT standards developed or for, is what I'm assuming.
so,
That this doesn't involve integration of technologies or changing of technologies.
so Doug, thanks for the question. So the Eden Fractal, it doesn't require any. It doesn't really require any blockchain technology right now. It can run basically off chain, kind of like how we're doing the Fractally Genesis meetings without having a blockchain. Obviously, it'll get better when we integrate it more with blockchain in the future. But for now, it's kind of just like we're doing it off chain with our own processes, and then we'll gradually build up on chain functionality onto EOS. And if the Fractally chain is helpful, then we can use that as well, which I think it probably will be, but we can do a lot of it just directly on EOS, which makes sense for the Eden community. And then I think that we can basically probably start it out with just make it so anybody can join as long as they're interested in helping Eden. And I know that you were saying that you're not an Eden member yet. I'd be happy to invite you and induct you, and we can do the meeting. And if we don't have a chance to do it by this Wednesday, then you're also welcome to just join the meeting, and you can always join another time as well. And then over time, I think it makes sense probably to do with Eden members only, maybe. But I think for now we can just start off by just having it where people can attend if they're interested in helping Eden, and then it'll all just operate with minimal interaction with EOS, and then we can give out the EOS or minimal interaction with the actual blockchain, and then we can just give out the EOS and so forth, and then build up the functionality actually on chain later. But mostly we can just keep it simple for now.
That's brilliant.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. That's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, Doug,
Okay.
and the way that I kind of see what we're doing here is, yeah, so it is an experiment. We're like another iteration or version of the Fractally fractal, but now we're the Eden fractal led with different leaders in a sense, because Dan's leading basically the Fractally. They're building the software. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff too, and initiatives that they're working on that that the whole Fractally community doesn't see yet. And so it's going to be different. We're going to have a fractal here on Eden, and we're going to have to find a main purpose that everyone's going to kind of center around, that we're going to gauge and measure like how we're wanting to allocate the respect every single week. And that's where I do see eventually if that gets larger, maybe things start to split up, and then overall the main core fractal of Eden is going to be the overall maybe you have the separate teams come, and then what's the ones what's the biggest initiatives that's really most beneficial towards the community, and that the fractal will decide that. But for the time being, it's just an experiment, and at the very least, us doing this respect it's at the very least just a metric. Now us starting to keep track of the total amount of respect that everyone starts to build up could essentially be used, and we could launch our own respect token. dependent on however that goes down with the Fractally chain, and see, I mean, there may be ways that we could do it through EOS too, and so all of this is just interesting. It's just nice to have. We're building it, but one of the biggest things that I think is of like the most importance of having this is we're going to be able to use this as a metric for measuring other members who start to run in the Eden elections. I really want to be able to go into an Eden election and then be able to look to see if they've participated in these weekly meetings, to showcase, like, I think my opinion is eventually I think that everyone that's in Eden, if you're wanting to run, you need to be participating in some type of Fractal and make it known what your contributions are, so that the community can hold you accountable and gauge and also measure through reaching consensus within these breakout rooms of if your contributions are more than just what you're saying they are, so that now the community, this is a metric that the community has reached and consolidated to where we can look at this and use this as a measurement of like, okay, well, you're wanting to run as a delegate, but you didn't do as much, or you don't really have much involvement. So then at this point, you're just basically asking us to trust your word. But like, we want to elect people that have shown and provided value, and so yeah, that's just a plus. And then everything else with NFTs, the fact that we're going to be incorporating EOS to start is going to help incentivize new people to come in that may not be involved or care about the Fractally process, just to earn the EOS, but now they're going to get to learn the Fractally process too, and so then that'll help integrate. And like I said, I see this being a synergy between the two communities, because I understand both sides. I do like the stuff that's going on in Fractally, but I also want to see that integrated with EOS, and I understand the reasons why we're currently split. And also at the same time, I also am under the impression of we don't need to go. I do see that there's some people that they kind of want to stick to like all the rules, but of like the white paper. But we are also leading this initiative. We can take our own interpretations of how we want to do things, and this is also good for the Fractally Genesis group, because then they'll be able to use what we're doing here and see what we apply, and if it works, they may be able to integrate it over to Fractally. And so it is good to have just basically an ongoing experiment of the same process, but in our own way, with a different set of leaders kind of leading the way. And yeah, so that's just basically my biggest excitement is we're going to start to truly measure this Eden community and see who's all really about this Eden community, so that we can have more informed decisions for these elections. And it's no more just electing delegates on just a one-off conversation with the random group you're in, and really not truly knowing who these people are. And then that's going to be the best way to really utilize the funding that Eden is getting. And like I said, I think a lot of this funding can go back out towards these Fractal initiatives to really start to pay for contributions. And as far as I guess the one topic though too is, I think that's something that we're gonna have to discuss as the Eden Fractal. I'm kind of under the impression I think we need to have, like, you got to be an Eden member to participate in the Eden Fractal, because I just think that makes sense. That's like a benefit of being an Eden member. If you want to earn EOS, then you got to be an Eden member if it's coming from the Eden Treasury. But yeah, and so anyone who shows interest, though, I think, shouldn't have a problem getting involved with Eden. But that's something though too. I think as a group of the Eden Fractal, that's a topic that will be of discussion, and it's going to be interesting because I've also proposed that we need to be aware of our time constraints. We can't have a ton of meetings throughout the entire week if some people, like, we're doing this as a part-time thing right now. So I want to use these meetings also to get a measurement of respect, but also to get a measurement of where are we going as a team, what are we trying to build, what is our objectives, so that we can hold every single week that we meet, we can reflect back and see if we hit those milestones, and then and learn and just really truly move and push forward. So using this Fractally process as a way to be a DAO and really start to make decisions collectively and reaching consensus of how we're going to go and operate.
Exactly, Felix. I will just say part of your words, but maybe I will just add what I am living into this Eden community since I am in. I would say since October 9 last year, I was joining Eden on EOS, very interested about the process, the fractal governance process, elect leaders, find the best people to lead to have a human layer on top of EOS. So that's what basically is Eden on EOS. And yeah, so I was following that week after week, contributing, documenting, doing interviews, as I do always. And this year in April, that was the second time election, and I was going to the next round. So I was elected as a Eden delegate level 1. And I was thinking, wow, that's mean a lot. Okay, nice. And now what can I do into this Eden community as a Eden delegate level 1? So I was thinking, okay, I will create a mind map, and I have put into the chat here an Eden dashboard, MindWeb mind map. And he's up to date, so with all the episode of the Chief Eden Delegates, the last one, the number 6, number 7 will be not so far away. That will be published in a couple of hours or maybe in one day. I don't know. I was hearing about that. So basically, each and every time there is a new episode, I was updating this mind map. I have also linked the Eden dashboard of Edgar Fernandez. He's creating a fantastic tool with Edenia to follow the expense and the incomes for the chief delegates. So that's very interesting. They are iterating very fast every week now with their meeting, 1 hour call, better than the last season. And they are doing without too much thinking. They are clear, they are thinking a little bit, then they are doing actions. And at the end of the call, there is, I would say, a clear vision on what they have done and decision for the next call. Very important. So I see very agile. These new chief delegates are very agile. And also the Eden process is becoming more and more agile. And now to go to a Fractally process, more and more to the Fractally process makes sense because we want to show contribution every week, and we want to be rewarded for that. But we deserve some EOS if we are doing what we said and we do action. And for me, it's natural. And now for answer to the question, if we need to be into Eden to participate to this Eden fractal or not, the obvious question is yes, we need to be into Eden. We need to show skin in the game. We need to pay a membership. We need to have been inducted because it's all about trust. We don't want a bot into this Eden on EOS. That's a human layer. And you have to show what you do. It's very important to be involved. And it's also very important to be focused. We cannot be in all the calls, different calls. We have to choose. And we have all on the table. So that's marvelous. We have all on the table. We have all the technology that we need. To answer to the question of Jay Taylor before, to create NFTs today, you can create NFT on the EOS mainnet with the EOS Atomic Hub. So that's very easy. Create a smart contract to mint an NFT. It's so easy. We don't need to wait on the Fractally public chain to create an NFT. There are no excuse. We can already create NFTs now. And the team of Eden, they are already creating the UI, the tools to go to Fractally, because that's the natural way iteration to go. That's the Eden 2.0. That's the Eden Fractal. So to have an Eden Fractal on and test the Fractally process, that's the natural way, and that's bridge the gap between EOS and Fractally, and EOS stay as a settlement layer. That's the beauty, and all the work that has been made since fast 5 years with EOS is not lost. So there is a leverage of the EOS ecosystem, and there is not on one side EOS, on one side Fractally. Otherwise, you have a fracture into these ecosystems, and we want collaborative ecosystems. With Fractally, we can collaborate. With Eden on EOS, we can collaborate. And with EOS, we can already collaborate. So it's not about the technology, it's about the people. So if the people want to contribute, they will do. If they don't have the time, that's normal. Sometimes we don't have the time. That's not the point to come every week at each Fractally stand-up meeting or every week at each Eden Fractal meeting. The goal is when you come, you show the value that you have maybe made in silent on your side. And when you come, you show something value added. So for me, it's testing the intent of the people, also testing what they have made as action, and finally what they have delivered. And if you can show that with links, with YouTube video, or with a smart contract that you are developing, or a tool that you are developing, that's something great for the other people, because speak, it's easy. Myself, I was this weekend with Daniel Larimer into the same breakout room with Daniel Larimer, with Gregory Wexler, and there was all.
I think Patrick cut out, and we can't hear him now. Okay, so feel free to speak up, Patrick, or if anybody else can hear Patrick, then let me know. Are you able to hear Patrick, Felix?
No, it sounded like he dropped out as well.
I can't hear him.
Okay. Cool.
I lost Patrick.
Okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know, Doug and Perry. Yeah, well, I'll just add to, maybe Patrick will come back with his audio, but just a couple of things I want to say. One, Patrick was sharing some really great thoughts there, and he was telling me about that meeting with Dan Larimer, and it sounded very exciting how we could use the Fractally process with Eden, of course. A couple of other things too. So one, Felix and I have been planning to make these meetings relatively short, and we've already been doing it for over an hour now. So I think that we should probably start wrapping it up soon. Maybe just have some last words, the next like 5 minutes or so, if that's good with everybody. And then I was going to add quickly that just kind of in conclusion, I think that the Eden Fractal that we're working on, we can tie together a lot of things we've been talking on this meeting, and things that can be really helpful. So like Felix and Patrick shared some really great thoughts about how Eden Fractal can help, and I think that everybody's really excited about it. And then I think it also ties into what Doug was saying about how like it's difficult for a community to really communicate and work together well when it's just like Telegram chats, and it's also difficult, like Felix was saying, when you don't really know who you're meeting during an election that's only once every 3 months. Chuck's also been talking about that a lot too, doing meetings more often, and also like somebody like Doug who's come into the community recently and who's doing a lot of work. Like it enables people to earn for their efforts and to be recognized for their works, be recognized for their efforts, and to really help Eden in ways that were never possible before, and foster a lot of helpful growth. And then it's also just fun to get to meet together with everybody in the Eden community. Perry was also mentioning how like the chief delegates haven't been meeting for the past week or so there's a little bit of a lapse of communication. But when we have, in addition to the chief delegate calls, also Eden Fractal events every week, and like Felix was saying, maybe it can expand to multiple events over a week or multiple Eden Fractals eventually. Like then it could be, it's already a very vibrant and amazing community with Eden, but it can become so much bigger with so much more activity and flourishing, like relationships and opportunities for people. So yeah, I'm really excited about it, of course, and I hope that everybody here can attend the meeting on Wednesday for the Fractal meeting, and we can also discuss the Eden member requirement in the future. But I would say that for the first meeting, if like Doug's not able to do whatever, then I think that Doug should still be completely welcome. But of course, join Eden. It's great to join Eden. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
I got enough
What's that, Doug?
US to buy myself 5 memberships. No, just kidding.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, would anybody else like to share some final thoughts? I'll also say too that the Eden Fractal meeting, the first meeting ever, is this Wednesday at 13 UTC, which is 9 a.m. in the morning Eastern time, or whatever time schedule you're in, 13 UTC. And also we'll be continuing to do these town hall events on every Sunday at 16 UTC. And we have lots of exciting plans coming up too. We're planning on making like a video show, and like Felix was talking about, we'll have guests and all sorts of different fun ways to make the show as helpful as possible for the Eden community and have a lot of fun. But yeah, would you like to say anything, Felix, or Perry or Doug like to say anything, or like some closing words?
I would like to emphasize the importance and value of mentorship and education in this community, and the lack thereof over very complex subject matters that became clearly evident through the chief delegates meetings, the ones where I stopped falling out of, and the very real fact that as part of a member of the EOS Translation Foundation, one of my primary roles has been playing a role of sort of bringing people up to speed with using certain kinds of tools and learning together as a group. And we're wanting to basically, I personally would love to see a way that we can tokenize and incentivize the educational process as well as the information. And also, I am interested in doing a mockumentary for this weekend's consensus and do an anti-consensus live stream thing. I'm thinking about trying to even getting over to Austin. And lastly, I just want to applaud you all for what's going on here. I had no idea. I'm glad I made it, and I'll try to join Eden as soon as I can and make it to whatever next, whenever it is. I guess, are you doing this weekly?
Yep,
So
that's the plans.
All right, well, that sounds good.
Yep.
yeah, thanks.
Well,
I was going to say we'll have 2 weekly meetings. So we'll have this meeting every Sunday at 16 UTC, the Eden Town Hall, and then the Eden Fractal Empowering Eden Contributors event every Wednesday at 13 UTC.
Okay, is this publicly broadcast, recorded, available later, discoverable?
Do you hear me?
Yes, Patrick, we can hear you. And Doug, this right now, I'm recording this locally, and at some point we'll probably share it, but we don't have a definite plan yet. But in the future, we'll definitely be recording and sharing everything, or at least working up to that. I like to make a really good production that we can share widely.
yeah. So, and that leads, I guess, to my final thoughts is to emphasize what the idea of this show is. Ideally, I personally tend to want to go more shorter form. So, we went long for an hour because it was more of an open discussion, which I think is awesome. I think we can have those though after the show. So the idea is to have like probably a 30-minute show where we go through topics of discussions, and then we will have time slots where we can either bring in, live attendance to talk, and we'll have to limit it to like a certain time so we can stick to like a stricter itinerary. And the whole idea behind this is retention. That's one of the most important metrics when it comes to any media platform, is retention rate. We want to keep the attention of people, and so by dialing in and getting straight to the point and keeping things like flowing and smooth, it is the best way for us to really get our message out there. And so what we're hoping to do with this show is to do highlights. And since basically Dan and I are going to have our hands on the pulse of what's going on with the Eden Fractal, which I think is where a lot of the activity of what's going on with Eden on top of the chief delegate meetings, is where all of our highlights are going to come. So, that's the idea, is we'll have 30 minutes where we go through the discussion of all the highlights, and then maybe afterwards, if things get really lively in here, we can have like an after party show where then we open it up for more open discussion. But then the idea is that first 30 minutes is we're going to use that as content that live streaming that's later down the roadmap. Right now it's capturing the content and then repurposing it in shorter form clips, but then also the longer form would possibly be the whole 30 minutes, maybe edit some parts out if it makes sense. But yeah, the whole idea is to be really efficient with our time and produce content that has retention in mind, so that the content is of value, so we can reach more people than just the echo chamber that we're currently in.
Right. That sounds
Exactly.
great. That sounds great. Hey, in the future, and put this into consideration, being that I'm have a background in mediation that I'm actively pursuing how to implement in the tech sphere, and that there's sort of a kind of digestion of information process that happens where I feel like some people are time delay or some information never gets them, and then other people are more like near the inner circle. And I see what you're trying to accomplish with your very direct short form format, but I'm sort of more like the kind of guy that wants to deal with FUD and wants to deal with people who keep asking the same questions over and over, and all these other kind of really inefficient stuff going on where people feel like their voice isn't being heard. It's where I want to quell all that noise if it's resolvable, and I think a lot of it is. And so I'm thinking about, like, in the long term, once you guys get rocking and rolling, if you're doing like any kind of format, maybe alternating like or mirroring whatever you do,
So we
like just a
finish
couple
now?
days after,
Or what?
and to where I could have like a like here's the bullet points. Anybody out in the community that have any
Don't
questions or thoughts, and then bring in a speaker or like if
What a
anyone-
silence.
So let me just interrupt you there, Doug. So Patrick, for some reason, I think can only hear everybody but Doug. So Doug was speaking, Patrick.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but we are starting to wrap it up, though. So,
you were hearing me when I was speaking?
yes,
I hear you
I was able to hear you
clear.
saying it's very quiet. Nobody's speaking, even though Doug was
No,
talking.
but when I was speaking, you was hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Or that
So,
was very silent?
very strange. It's very strange because I was hearing lots of stuff. But anyway, I do think that we should wrap it up, though. Like, so maybe if Doug, would you like to just conclude what you're saying in the next like 20 seconds or so, and then if Patrick would like to say like the last 20 seconds, because I know we got cut off before, but let's try to wrap it up in the next like
last
2
closing
minutes or
thought
so.
is I'm talking to someone who is anonymous in China and is interested in collaborating internationally. So I think what we got going here could go
So I have to
um,
rejoin.
bigger.
Hear any.
So I'm excited. I'm coming back. Yay, team, go. What is this? Eden moving forward, Eden forward. I guess what are we calling this?
Yeah. Well, this is the Eden Town Hall. So go Eden Town Hall. Also go moving Eden forward. Also go Eden Fractal. And and we'll be doing once again this Eden Town Hall every Sunday, 16 UTC, the Eden Fractal at every Wednesday at 13 UTC. Would you like to say any last words, Felix? I think Patrick was still having issues, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to share anything. But thank you, Doug, for sharing those thoughts. I'm super excited too, and as always, I love your enthusiasm, and I'm really excited and happy that you like dove into the EOS community and you're doing all this great work. It was really cool to see you do the 24-hour live stream. So thanks so much for that, and thanks so much for joining us here, and also Perry too. Yeah, I've been really appreciating hearing you speak at the recent events, at the Fractally events, at the EOS support chat, and also throughout the comments stuff. So, and then here, of course, too. So thank you, Perry, and thank you, Doug, and also, of course, Patrick. It's always great to hear from you. And of course, Felix, I'm super excited to be doing the show with you too.
Yep. Thank you, Dan. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for showing up. And yeah, I think, you know, if you guys want to continue to hang out, we can. We're gonna end the recording part right here, or at least this will be a cut, and then now this is just us free flowing from here on out. If we want, but I will have to hop off here in the next 10 minutes. But I'm open to just chat now and hang out. But yeah, I think ideally that's how we probably should do things. Dan, is probably ideally once we have like the show is wrapped up, then either we stop the recording and then we can start a new one for the after party, or we just say, you know, this is the cut part, so then we can come back, and then when we're going through the content to edit, we'll just cut this part, and then everything else is just the after party part.
Okay, cool. So that sounds good. And I'll stop the recording now. And then I've also got to go in the next few minutes because I have a project due in like an hour and a half. But yeah, once again, thanks again, everybody. And I hope to see you this Wednesday and next Sunday. And I'm super excited to be sharing all this with you and about all the great stuff we're doing with Eden. So yeah, thanks so much, everybody.
Dogman, can I ask you, are you organizing Wednesday's meeting?
I am helping to organize it. Yeah. So I wrote the proposal for the Eden Fractal, and then I've been working closely with Felix and Joshua and Patrick and about 10 Eden members that we're meeting every Wednesday for the Empowering Eden Contributors, and we've been discussing the way to do it. So I'm helping to organize it, and there's also a lot of other Eden members who are also helping to organize it as well.
Okay, I'd like to offer a hot topic that I believe will stimulate debate, and it's an important topic in my mind. It's super important, and I don't want to. I know everybody wants to get going on with their day, but so I don't want to dig into it now. But if it happened on Wednesday, I think that would be fantastic and very fruitful for the community. And the question is this. The topic of external services that the Eden Group is going to administer, like APIs and other functions that go along with the Eden delegates, chief delegates, that they would be administering. And then what do we do as a group in terms of these? Do we have these functions, number one, and how do we transition them from chief Eden delegate sets to the next set? And here is my feeling of that. I feel like we should minimize as much as possible any kind of administrative functions outside of simply making the decisions. And the reason I think that is because I believe it's an attack vector. One of the issues that Dan has addressed with Fractally is the ability to resist parties from forming, and he viewed that very insightfully as an attack vector to an election process, having different parties form, and they're not really productive, and they can actually become really behind the scenes a single party, and it's a way of attacking. And so that's one of the reasons Fractally exists in his mind, and that's great. Another issue is the deep state. Let's just call it that. The administration that goes from the administrative functions that pass from administration to administration, that's another attack vector. So my instincts tell me we should be minimizing those, putting whatever we need to, that needs to happen on chain, let that happen on chain, so that's just not disputable, and everything else just becomes a contracted service if the Eden chief delegates require it. So I know that's a long-winded question, and I don't want to get into it now. But if somehow that was brought up on Wednesday, I think that's an extremely fruitful and timely question, because if we start down the road of allowing a deep state, people who really don't want Eden to succeed but aren't telling us that, and I think they exist, I think we have to
No, it's
accept
not
it.
the case. It's not the case. So the chief Eden delegates currently, they have that in mind that the API endpoint as an asset have to be controlled. So, for example, EOS support with Randall Roland and Dario Cesaro and all the team of EOS support, they are monitoring the API endpoints. They are also monitoring the Mandel upgrade. So all those assets, technological asset or digital asset, let's say, they are controlling that. So that's very nice. The only difference between Eden and Fractally currently, it's just about we are electing leaders or are we electing the best ideas and the best projects. And the answer to that with Eden currently how it is, we are electing leaders. With Fractally, we are electing the best ideas, the best information, data. We capture those data and we turn into knowledge. That's what we want to do with Fractally. But now, so don't be. I would say scared about the API endpoint and all this stuff, because this is uncontrolled.
I'm not scared of it.
Not you particularly. Not you particularly. I will say generally, not that the people thinks that there is a attack vector. Attack vector, there will be always an attack vector possible, but we are minimizing that. Avoiding that, it's impossible, but minimizing that, yes. It's about security, so we want to minimize the risk. There will be always a risk. Also for the DeFi, but now with Yield Plus, that's going into a nice direction, because they will choose the best DeFi project and they will make an audit to let's say, minimize the risk. So for the API endpoint, let's go into the correct direction, I think, with this new chief Eden delegate board member.
Let me clarify, if I may. I'm not opposed to an API point, or it being funded by chief delegates. I'm not opposed to that. Of course not. That's information. That's a necessary function. But what I'm suggesting is that it's not a requirement that the chief delegates have a skill set that are able to manage that, or even occupy.
It's what I said. They don't manage that. It's EOS support. EOS support, the concierge of EOS, so the support. That's the role of this organization, this smart organization by Randall Roland. EOS support, that's a smart organization. They are in charge to monitoring this API endpoint. That's not directly the chief Eden delegates that will do that, but they are aware of that and they are helping to do into this direction by the true Edgar Fernandez of EOS Costa Rica and Edenia, because he has the skill set, he has the technical background to do the interface between the chief delegates and For example,
that's
EOS
my point
support.
right there. That's my point.
Yeah.
I don't believe we should require the chief delegates to have a skill set required to manage that. I think we should separate. We should separate that function.
Yeah, I understand, but they are not managing directly. They are just doing the interface between the correct actors into this ecosystem that can be in charge to do the monitoring. And in this case, it's EOS support, for example.
Are they doing anything other than deciding yes or no and how much to fund? Anything else? Yes to fund or no to fund, and how much? Are they doing anything else?
So
Yeah,
guys,
for me, it's okay.
guys, I'm just
Yeah.
going to jump in real quick here. This is a fascinating conversation, and I don't mean to interrupt. And I do want to just briefly respond to one thing that Perry said, and then of course you guys can continue. But I do have to go, and so just real quick to answer what you were suggesting, Perry, about discussing this during the Eden Fractal meeting on Wednesday. So this kind of topic wouldn't be very fitting for the Eden Fractal on Wednesday, because the purpose of the Eden Fractal on Wednesday is specifically to talk about contributions to Eden and to explain what you've done to contribute to Eden. So if somebody made, I don't know, some sort of proposal to improve the APIs or wrote something that was helpful for Eden to fix an issue or to improve something, then that would be a fitting subject for Wednesday. It's kind of like the meetings on Saturdays or Fractally. It's not a time to discuss, how to improve Fractally with ideas. It's a time to share your contributions and share what you've actually done
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a town hall. It's a regular Eden meeting.
It's an Eden meeting to share what you're doing to contribute to Eden, and then each Eden member can rank the contributions to determine who's doing the most helpful work for Eden. So it's certainly helpful to have discussions like these to think about ideas, think about how to improve, API services and make Eden more resilient and so forth. So that's something that we can do at these town halls, and we've also been exploring starting up another Fractal for Eden called Fractal Forums, where we could pick one specific topic every week and then discuss it and figure out who has the best ideas about the topic. So that would be a good place to talk about this kind of discussion, and then also these town halls. But I just want to make that clear that on Wednesday, it's specifically just about what have you done to contribute to Eden, and then people rank on that. So it does have a more specific purpose.
Okay,
does that make sense, Barry?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that clarification, because that would have been silly for me to completely try to change the meeting. So thank you for that. So anyway, that's my.
That's good.
That's my. I think that's an important topic because I think we want the best decision makers at that level. Pure decision makers. We don't want necessarily to everybody or even anybody to have the technical skills to do that. Now, I have the ability to dig into that and figure that out and be one of those guys. I could do that if that's what I so desired. But I don't think that's the best specialization of our or allocation of our skill set resources to require that. And that's my point, is that we separate it and we don't create a similar situation where, like in the United States, we have the deep state.
Yeah, but for me, there is a good separation. So if you are listening to the 6th episode of the Chief Eden Delegates, and you hear to each of those episodes, you see that their goal is to take a rapid decision and don't take any technical decision on the implementation or on the API endpoints, for example, that you mentioned. And the discussion has taking place into the Eden on EOS Telegram. There you can speak about that, or into the Eden members, but it's private group. But if you go into the Eden on EOS Telegram, there you can speak about that. That's the correct place to make the things clear, crystal clear, about this concern.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Cool. And on that note, I have to get going too. So thanks everybody so much. It's been great speaking with y'all, and I'm looking forward to the next meeting on Wednesday and Sunday. And then feel free, of course, to keep talking in here. And these are very interesting discussions. But you have to go. And thanks so much, everybody. Again, it was great speaking with you.
I'm going to take
Thank
off.
you,
as
Dogman.
well.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It was
Thank you,
awesome.
Felix. And see you after for the interview.
All right, sounds good. Yep. Thank you guys, everyone. Exciting times for sure. This is the start, but this community is going to get popping, and we're going to get organized and everyone's voice. Like, we need a collective voice, and I think we're making the right steps forward for that. And so I'm excited to see you guys in these reoccurring events. So until then, I'll talk to you guys then.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Go Eden. See you.
Yep. Go Eden.
Go EOS, go Eden, go Fractally.
That's right.